Welcome back, everybody. Go ahead and turn your cameras on so we know you're here. All right. Hopefully you got to see the sun. This activity plays very well with the lesson Jamie just did on institutions. And some of you may have seen this FTE activity before. So I don't remember if Jamie said this in the beginning, so I apologize if I'm repeating. But Jamie has been creating an economics or an entrepreneurship curriculum and there's a lot of lessons and activities that are a part of that. We had these activities that were just kind of standalone activities that have to do with entrepreneurship that we're going to include in that collection of resources, that curriculum that will be available on the FTE website. So today you'll get a folder that will have the lessons and is that right, Jamie? It'll have the slides for today and the lessons.
Yeah, so we'll give you it'll just be like a Google Doc and then there'll be links on it and you'll just have to trust us that more links will be coming. So as the lessons as reviewing and all that stuff, so they'll be live and then I think the goal is like by late summer there should be the whole curriculum should be up. So it should be ready to go for your classes in the fall.
So what you're seeing today is a kind of a preview of that. We do have a summer workshop in Chicago that's like a 4-day program, I think, that Jamie and I are doing, 3-day program, where it'll be all entrepreneurship, for the whole program. So today you're getting a selection of those lessons and activities. So this activity is called Destination Startup, and you're going to be put into teams of 4. I want you to imagine that you're starting a business and you're trying to decide which of 4 countries would be the best location for your startup. And the business that you're starting is a personal assistant app. So it's for busy people. It allows users to enter a task that they need done, and someone could pick up that job or complete that task for them. So for example, if you needed somebody to pick up a greeting card for you or grab some milk or make an appointment or, run you on some errands, something like that. And so I'm going to give you a link that will take you to the CIA World Fact Book. Make sure I get that one first. So you're going to have a couple windows open. You want to have a couple windows open that you can toggle between for this activity. So here's the CIA World Fact Book. And then for your teams of 4, I'm going to send you to this link, where you'll again be collaborating on some shared Google slides. And those slides look like this. Whoops, let me get to slide 1. Yeah, so it'll drop everybody on slide 1, but you're going to want to go to the slide number that matches your breakout room number. And you'll notice that the different slides have different countries. So if you're in team 1, you'll have Belarus, Brazil, New Zealand, Niger. If you're on team 2, you'll have Colombia, Iraq, Ireland, Thailand, and so on. You'll see the different countries listed here on the right. And the instructions for what your team is going to be doing are listed here on the slide. So with your team of 4, you want to break it up, assign each person a country, and you're going to go to the CIA World Fact Book. When you're on the CIA World Fact Book, at the top, you can click on countries, and we'll pick on, try to think who's not on the list. Usually have one pulled up ahead of time. We'll go to Mongolia, for example. So I'm clicking through the M's. And here it gives some background information about Mongolia. I know this is one of the countries not included on your list, so that's why I chose that. And so you'll want to scroll through. These are the different sections you can jump to. You don't have to read the entire CIA World Fact Book. on the country, but it might be helpful to know about, to read about maybe the introduction, maybe read about the people in society, like how big is the population, what are the demographics? Are they an older population, a younger population? You might want to look at what type of government that they have. That might be, any information you think might be useful for an entrepreneur. How about their economy? Here it'll give you an overview of their economy. Notice it says they have high inflation and currency depreciation they're experiencing. But they've had a lot of large human capital improvements over the last 3 decades. And I can scroll down and look at specifically their GDP per capita, their inflation rate, what their biggest industries are, what youth unemployment rates are, and regular unemployment rates. I also might want to know about their communications, like if this is an app that's going to be on phones, how many people have cell phones, right? And how reliable is that communication system? So I can read about their telecommunication systems. And then I might want to read about transnational issues, for example. This one doesn't have a lot listed for this country, but it might talk about abilities to trade with other countries and stuff. So you're going to assign everybody a country. Everybody will go to the CIA World Fact Book, find their country, kind of research it. And then you're going to go back to your team slide and you're going to rank those countries 1 through 4. So which is the most desirable country where you would place a business, and which would be the last of the 4 where you would start your business? And then answer these questions at the bottom. There's 3 discussion questions there. Okay. Do we have any questions before I send you away in breakout rooms? Okay. We're going to shuffle the breakout rooms so you'll get to work with different people. So this time there'll be 4 to 5 in each breakout room again. If you have 5 people in a group, whichever country has maybe the most information, those 2 people can kind of collaborate on that. Elena or Elena, you had a question.
Yes, thank you, Debbie. My question is, do we jot down our answers individually on our notebook, on a note sheet, and then share it out? We'll share it out in the main group. Is that what we're doing?
Yeah,
Okay.
your group is just mainly jot down the ranking. And then if you have notes on why that country was most desirable to you or why it wasn't desirable to you.
Okay, thank you.
All right. We'll see. We'll probably give you 10 to 15 minutes for this part of the activity. On your marks, get set, go. Welcome back, everybody. Hopefully you were able to at least have a little bit of discussion and talk about which would be maybe the best or the bottom of the list if you didn't quite get them all 4 in order. But I just want to go through some of the groups and ask you, and just volunteer. One of you volunteer from the group to share. Let's go ahead and start with, let's see how many rooms we have here. Oh, goodness. I apologize. We had Team 9 and I didn't give you any countries and nobody asked me where's our slide?
Yeah, we couldn't get you, Debbie. We couldn't find you when we were in our room. So
Okay.
we just did 8. So just to let you know, we just took 8 because we couldn't find you.
I apologize, Team 9. So Team 9, tell us how you ranked the 4 for you guys. Are those numbers on this?
Yeah, that's the one that we did.
You put Kenya first, or was that Team 8?
That was Team 8, but we agree, I think.
Oh, you agree with their rankings?
Yeah.
Okay. And so somebody from either Team 8 or Team 9, tell us why Kenya was more desirable than these other countries.
I'm in Team 8, but I can chime in. Kenya had the highest population out of all the countries, and they had a fairly high GDP of 314 billion, a little bit less than Czech Republic, but pretty similar.
Okay. Let's go to Team 7. And which country did you rank last? Team 7. That was Jana, Krizia, Pamela, Rosemary, Krishanda.
we kind of were cut off, but we definitely said that Germany was at the top.
Okay.
And then we were kind of discussing because we didn't get to see if it was Botswana or Argentina that were all the way at the bottom, but we did discuss
Between
that
those two.
Argentina would have been at the bottom because it has a negative GDP growth rate.
Okay, so their economy isn't doing very well right now.
Mhm.
Okay. Team 6, tell us where you put oh, it looks like you put Ukraine last. Well, let's go to Guatemala. I can guess why Ukraine might be last right now. For places to start a business, entrepreneurs like stability. And when you don't know what the future holds, or if there's a lot of political unrest, that's not a good environment for starting a business. How about Guatemala? Why did you guys put Guatemala as your third pick? Team 6.
I did Guatemala, and the reason why it was number 3 mostly is because it's a low to moderate emerging market. Just over half of the population has access to the internet in general. And they also have a low unemployment rate. So most people are working already, but they do have an emerging gig economy,
Okay.
but only in the, really the few urban centers. And there's a ton of income inequality.
Okay.
Um,
Great information. So that's going to be a big problem is the internet, right? If people don't have access to the internet, that cuts a lot of people out, potential users for your app. Okay, team 5. Why did you put Egypt first?
So we didn't actually reach a ranking. These were just the numbers that were already on our slideshow.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we had some, well, I was the bystander, but a lot of us in the group had like discussions about the life expectancy, the population growth, as well as the inflation, and how a stable economy would either attract or be unattractive for businesses being started in these countries. But I don't think we reached a ranking.
Okay. I apologize if I usually try to reset the slides so they go back to, unedited before people move stuff around, and I missed that edit. So if a country has high inflation, is that going to be desirable to an entrepreneur?
Not really, no.
Right. You want again predictability. Okay, let's look at team 4. You have some notes with your countries. And so somebody from team 4, tell us about what you thought about Mexico. Would that be a desirable place, or was that farther down on your list?
Hi, Debbie. I was a member of Team 4, and Mexico was my country. We ran out of time, unfortunately, but I had Mexico as possibly number 1 or number 2, based off their GDP, based off NAFTA, North America Free Trade. And the CIA fact book did have the 2016 new trade policy. Also, inflation seemed to be relatively calm. It's going down recently. So out of our countries of Georgia, and no offense to Haitians or Morocco, I would have to say Mexico, it would be our number 1 country based on the CIA fact book.
Okay. And I'm from Arizona, and Mexico's they're our neighbors. And so our students, they know people from Mexico, they travel to Mexico. And I like to use Mexico as a reference point. They're kind of right in the middle. When you look at the standard of living, GDP per capita, they're right in the middle. So half the countries in the world have higher standard of living than Mexico, and half are below that. And so that kind of gives them a reference point for, because they compare the United States and Mexico and see a big difference, but that gives them some world perspective to put Mexico in the middle. Candace, you had a comment.
Yes, I was in group 4. I didn't have a chance to speak because we ran out of time. But one of the things, and I had chosen Morocco. So one of the things that I noticed, and I would have spoken about this in the group, is that they have a very large, it's about 26, I think, percent population of youth who are employable. And they have pretty stable import export. They are dealing with both China and the European Union. They don't have a lot of people leaving the country. They have a monarchy, but the fact that the youth are seeking jobs because there aren't a lot, that would be to me a perfect place because you've got employable people.
Yeah, that's a great point. So you need not only people that are going to use the app as a customer, but also people who will be willing to provide services through the app. So how about Team 4? Tell us about you had Colombia and Thailand in the middle, both kind of together. You ranked them 2 and 3. Why? What were similarities, or why was it hard to choose?
I don't know if it was hard to choose because we didn't really have time to talk about all the countries. So
I apologize.
so we're looking at so we did talk about Ireland and Thailand, and those two countries. Well, I've researched Thailand, but we talked about Ireland. But they seem to have low unemployment. There seems to be a high dependency ratio on elderly and youth, which for a service like this might be useful to have. They seem to have what was it? More urban areas, there's upper class income, substantial and permanent infrastructure, low unemployment, GDP growth seems to be pretty steady in those countries. So those might be attractive countries. And so I didn't hear for Colombia. I didn't research Colombia, so I don't know how alike they were to Thailand. But if there's
Okay.
some to that, that would make sense.
Unfortunately, we didn't have enough time. I did research Colombia. Over 50% of their economy is based on services. So given that this is a service-oriented startup that we'd be providing, it would make it, a real contender. But some of the other issues like security, corruption, what the government is doing in terms of regulation and incentives would certainly make a big difference to us.
Yeah.
We all agreed right away on looking at Iraq and placing that last because of still ongoing concerns. So
Yeah,
that
I
one
did
was
Iraq.
easy to identify that first.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I like how you brought up corruption. That's really important for a business or an entrepreneur. If corruption is really rampant in a country and you're going to have to be paying bribes and you don't trust that the rules are going to be enforced equally and fairly, that's going to influence, the success of a business.
Yeah, I did Iraq, and a lot of norms of the societies, right? You cannot just change it with a new legislation. What was good about Iraq, I noticed because maybe our military there, they did better on their communication because they set up a lot of underground cable. So that was unexpectedly better, but the Gini coefficient is still big. It's 0.5, so that's pretty big.
Yeah. Michelle, you had a comment.
Yeah, just a quick question. When we're looking at our countries, yes, they might have corruption, but I wouldn't be able to do this business, but someone else could because they know the people, they know the culture, and they would be able to make a business. If it's corrupt, they know what's happening. Maybe I wouldn't fit in there, but maybe someone else could do the business where I couldn't. And I'm thinking of a country like Ecuador.
Oh, I came from a country with corruption. It's very hard because it's not that really entrepreneur that is promoted. Okay, you have to bribe somebody that knows somebody. So already your profits are gone and your incentive are gone, right? I don't know, that's at least from my experience growing in Eastern Europe. So yeah, it's very hard with corruption. It really cuts all your wings.
Does anybody watch the YouTube or follow the YouTube channel called Yes Theory? It's a great channel. These young guys, they travel all over the world, going to places that hardly anybody goes, or very interesting, unique, far away, remote, populous, but places all over the world. And you get to meet the people and see how things work there. And the last video that they did, they went to Honduras because there's a city in Honduras that has this independent status. The name will come to me. It's like, I'll think of it. It'll come to me and I'll put it in the chat for you. But this city has the ability to kind of make their own rules. And so people travel to this city and a lot of entrepreneurs go there because they want to be able to research and try businesses and start things that regulations in other places prohibit them from doing. And they provide their own private security, their own, kind of institutions within the city boundaries. A lot of the people, I think it's 75 to 80% of the people that live and work there are from Honduras, but a lot of them are from all over the world. Prospera, that's the name of the city. And it was just very interesting to watch a video about that. But one of the things that somebody from Honduras was saying is that back in regular Honduras, there's so much corruption. And here it was so much easier to thrive and, have a business or be successful. So Yes Theory is the name of that YouTube channel. Okay, Team One, tell us something about one of the countries you found most interesting and whether that fact made it desirable or undesirable for a business there.
Well, I was researching Niger, but I kind of cheated a little bit and I went and I looked up the Economic Freedom Index. And so as I listened to my other teammates kind of describe their countries, the descriptions really fell in line with what the Economic Freedom Index kind of already ranked them. We didn't go.
Eric, you're still in my thunder because we're going there. How did you know? Okay, so don't tell us the number yet, okay?
Okay, but we didn't rank them exactly the way that the Freedom Index ranked them.
Okay.
The one switch was Niger and Belarus. And kind of one of the things we talked about was the difference wasn't enough for us to put Niger ahead of Belarus because Niger was just significantly poorer and the infrastructure was significantly lacking. So, yes, they might have a slightly higher freedom index, but still there has to be the resources, there has to be the infrastructure and stuff available. There has to be some disposable income available to make something like this work.
Yeah, and in the notes to this slide, there's some other resources you could use in addition to CIA World Factbook. Usually you're trying to fit this lesson into one class period. You'd probably want to give them at least 5 more minutes than I gave you. And so it kind of, unless you were to have them go home and do the research on their country as homework, and then come back and discuss it as a group. And then you could give them more resources than just the CIA World Factbook, like globaledge.org, transparency.org. You might have some great resources as well. So was there any information that you would have liked to have known before deciding where to open a business that you didn't really have access to? Questions that came up?
No. However, I would have like a graph organizer for my students.
Okay.
Like if I'm going to give this to my students or give this as a homework, I definitely will have a graph organizer, and I probably would have them rate those factors in order of importance as well.
Okay, I like that.
Mhm.
So in the classroom, the way it's written for the classroom, you would give each group, they get their list of countries, but then they also get sticky notes, 4 different color sticky notes, and you would have them write their top pick on, whatever. I always change these colors depending on what sticky notes I can find in the office. So find 4 different color sticky notes, and you tell them to write their countries in order accordingly. So here I have blue, yellow, purple, and pink. Okay, so we looked at the team questions. I want to show you a video. This one is featuring some essential economists, we call them, or it's from the Fraser Institute put out a series called Essential. They're philosophers and economists and political people of political economy before we called it economics. So this is David Hume, and I want you just to think about why this would be important to an entrepreneur.
Welcome to the Essential Ideas of David Hume.
Share my sound.
Hume was an early advocate of free trade between people in their own country, as well as with people in other countries. Hume believed the same economic and moral benefits that accrue to people from trading with people in their own country also occur from trading with people in other countries. Let's use an example to explore Hume's ideas about the benefits of trade. Imagine 4 countries: Southland, Northland, Eastland, and Westland. For simplicity, there are 4 goods produced in each country: agriculture, raw materials like timber, technologies like telephones, and transportation like cars and trucks. Initially, each country produces all 4 goods, and trade is limited to people within each country. But as time passes, people in each country figure out what they're really good at producing and start producing more of that particular good. The people in Westland, Eastland, and Northland start to trade with each other in the goods they've discovered they're relatively good at producing. The people in Southland, however, fear the effects of trading with foreigners and decide to prohibit any trade outside of the country. Over time, the people in Westland, Eastland, and Northland specialize more and more in the areas they're good at, which leads to more entrepreneurship and innovation. Soon, people in all 3 countries are producing more of each good, and people are benefiting from higher quality and innovations. And all 3 countries benefit from each other's innovations because of trade. Southland, however, is limited in its ability to specialize because it has to produce everything. And so less innovation and progress is observed in Southland compared to its trading neighbors. Over time, people in Westland, Eastland, and Northland become wealthier with much higher living standards than people in Southland. Hume's insights into the benefits of free trade between nations would lead to increasing trade around the world for centuries. For more information on David Hume, visit
Called the Essential Scholar Series. That's what it's called. Okay, so this is a video on Hume.
Essential. Welcome to the.
There we go. Why would free trade be important to an entrepreneur if you're looking at a location to start and or expand your business? I didn't hear free trade come up in your discussions, but what do you think, Eric?
Well, if you have free trade, your location isn't really the only defining factor then. I mean, you would be able to, export your good to other places. You'd be able to get access to the raw materials and resources that you might need that might not be locally available. So it really takes some of the other factors out of play. Very good. Yeah, it would affect how big your market is and supply chains as well. Here's a little video from Hayek on the rule of law.
Welcome to Essential Hayek. I'm Don Boudreau, professor of economics at George Mason University, senior fellow at the Fraser Institute, and blogger at Cafe Hayek. This video is part of the Fraser Institute's initiative to present the key ideas of F.A. Hayek in an easily accessible format. In this video, we explore one of Hayek's most profound pursuits, which is understanding the difference between legislation and law. Hayek differentiated between rules consciously designed and imposed on society by government officials and rules that emerge, undesigned, from social interactions among people over time. He called rules imposed on society by government officials legislation, and he contrasted legislation with those rules that emerge, which he called law. Hayek's concept of law is a lot like what we today refer to as social norms. Let's try to simplify this distinction with an example. This is Julie. Julie is going to the movies. When Julie enters the theater, she finds a seat and puts her coat on it. This small act sends a signal to others that the seat is now taken. People recognize from the placing of the coat that someone has staked a claim, so to speak, on that seat for the duration of the movie. No one will move Julie's coat or sit in that seat. This rule is a social norm or convention that governs our behavior. No government imposed this rule as a law, but so what? We all recognize and follow this rule. And we would interpret someone who ignores this rule by moving Julie's coat and then taking the seat as someone who violates normal social behavior. In other words, this social norm constrains the way we act and allows us to interact with one another more effectively.
I'll skip the other part of the video just for the sake of time. Is it important for, Jamie referred to why rule of law is important for entrepreneurs. Is it also important to understand the social norms and customs and traditions in another country if you're an entrepreneur? Simona kind of referenced this.
Oh, yes, definitely. Because, and again, it just happened that I lived all this, right? Without having the proper institution and incentive, you cannot just operate. You will find not only, I think, for an entrepreneur, it's that spirit, right? That energy, those swings, as I said, right? You will find them a lot of barriers and you just bumping barriers, and the whole system, it's meant for you to not be successful from the start. And the corruption, and again, as an innovator, you have to have those ideas. And the only way I saw it that those ideas could be moved from invention to innovation if you know somebody in the, whatever system, in the corruption system, and they will take your idea and eventually you get some benefit of it, maybe something, so that's not going to work.
Yeah, and I was thinking when you guys brought up, or somebody brought up Iran, that's, or Iraq even, these are countries where you can, you create an app, it's against social norms to have, like a woman couldn't just have a man come and complete a task for her, or, and Lyft addressed this kind of issue where if you want to order rides from Lyft, you can say, I want only female drivers, or, so it's important to understand the social norms and the customs as well in a country when you're creating a business there. There's another video in here on property rights that we're going to skip because we're running out of time.
Welcome to the Essential.
Sorry.
I just want to add one thing because I see it happen. If that country or that nation is not really ready for a transition, they can change it in the law system, but the norms and the people, the way they think, those corruption, they are so rooted, they're not going to change. It takes, I think, 2 to 3 generations sometimes to change those.
Yeah, it has to come from the people that live there. You can't just drop institutions in and think they're going to work the same way. They have to work with the institutions there. So it has to be from within. Okay, so now the last part of this activity, like Eric previewed, is ask the students to now go back and look at those 4 countries and look them up on the Economic Freedom of the World Index. And so you go through this process of, now the Economic Freedom of the World Index measures to what degree countries, the policies and institutions of a country are supportive of economic freedom. And those cornerstones of economic freedom are personal choice, voluntary exchange, freedom to enter markets and compete, security of the person, your person, and privately owned property. Now, what I'm going to send you, I'm going to go over like 5 minutes, Jamie, and then we'll take it from my other activity. I'm going to send you back to your breakout rooms, and you're going to look up the country the 4 countries that you researched. And if you hadn't put them into a rank yet, go ahead and put them into a rank, 1, 2, 3, 4. And I want your top country is going to be blue. And your second country is going to be green. Your third country will be orange. And your fourth country will be red. And you're going to go back to those team slides, but everybody is going to go down to slide number 9. And on slide number 9 in blue text, remember, blue is your first, your top ranked country. Orange, green was your second. Looks like I think this is the same order I showed you. Green will be second, orange will be third, red will be last. And you're going to write the country's name in that colored text on this spectrum, this continuum, according to their Economic Freedom of the World score. So I sent you the link to the Economic Freedom of the World map in the chat. Go ahead and open that up. It looks like this. So I'm going to type in Mongolia again. It highlights it. I can point to it over here. It's ranked 69 of 100 and I think 80 something countries. And their score is 6.86 out of 10. So I would go back to that slide and I would write Mongolia at 6.8. I'd make insert a little text box, and then you can change the font color. Okay. So I'm going to send you back to your breakout rooms and give you about 5 minutes to do this. On your marks, get set, go.
Debbie, how can Ireland be last? Am I seeing it like that?
I think I wasn't very clear on some of the instructions. So it looks like some people are ranking. I think some people put these in order of their rank, instead of the economic freedom score. Because Venezuela and Iraq have much lower scores. They're not up there by 10. And Ireland is not at a 1. So.
Oh, I see.
So I apologize. It looks, as I'm watching some of the placements, some of them look right, but some of the scores, like I was just mentioning, Ireland has a pretty high economic freedom score. So if we go back to the map here and look at Ireland.
Yeah, it's 8.2. I can tell you that.
Okay, so move it over there. Ireland is 8.2. Somebody drag that and move it.
Yeah, we misunderstood it. The intention was good, but we misunderstood it.
So any observations now that we're getting Ireland moved to the right place? Georgia probably needs to move. It's not, they put number 21 as its rank, but what is Georgia's score? It's much higher. It should probably be over there by.
But those are from 2022, right? That's what it shows there.
It's because it's the 2024 report, and the 2024 report uses 2022 data. So there's always a lag in how much time it takes to gather all the data and publish it from the different countries.
So they do it every 4 years?
No, they do it every year. So pretty soon the 2025 report will come back, and it uses 2023 data.
Because it takes time to gather the data. Okay, that's good. Thank you.
So what you'll start to notice is that a lot of first picks blue also have high economic freedom scores. And this is what Eric was pointing out. And a lot of the countries that were your last picks have lower economic freedom scores. So I apologize, I had to rush you through that a little bit, but I wanted you to get a little piece of what this looks like. So in the classroom, the students would take their sticky notes that are those different colors, and they would put them on a continuum on the wall, and you would see that same relationship. A lot of everybody's first picks that were on the blue sticky notes have the highest economic freedom scores, and the lower picks have lower economic freedom scores. So empirical studies and historical comparisons strongly suggest that more entrepreneurial societies have higher standards of living and stronger economic growth. Entrepreneurship thrives in communities where property rights, rule of law, free to trade, and entrepreneurship is supported. So, and this is an activity that hopefully you would, could use to illustrate that, where your students could learn by doing the activity.
We're moving along. Today, again, it's just kind of been like puddle jumping over the curriculum, and I'll give you a brief kind of outline of the curriculum as a whole, and then what Chicago is going to be that Debbie has mentioned. So we're going to kind of focus on some pricing decisions, because that's really important for entrepreneurs. So we're just kind of building this whole thing. So, but first, what I need you all to do in the chat, I need you to put your score from 1 to 5 of how you feel about supply and demand. Like, I am super at 5 as I'm super confident, I got this, whatever else. 1 is, oh my gosh, I can barely spell supply and demand. I just want to go through, because my goal is I want to kind of skip all the supply and demand stuff and really focus on the meat of this, because I want to show you the 3.9. I want to show you the cool part of this lesson, I think. Okay, so I'm not seeing any 1s, so that's, and it's okay if you're a 1. Oh, I'm a 1. Okay, I got some 1s. So we'll try to go through it a little bit. David, if there's a point where you need to stop me, please stop me if I'm going too fast through that. I just want to make sure that there's time. Debbie, what time do I have this till? Is this a 45-minute session?
You have until, let's see, it goes 3:45, but just say 4. Go to 4.
Go to the top of the hour. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Top of the hour. Maybe we'll go a little lower than that. Okay. So This is a new curriculum, but I am pulling an oldie but goodie. I don't even know if it's an oldie. It's just like a classic. I love this. If you don't have a market simulation in your classroom, immediately start one. And this one is super, super great. So I would highly recommend before you do this, um, that you do this in the chips on Market for Computer Chips. So I've put the lesson in there. You can just search for it. You'll see beautiful Debbie there doing a video. I don't know how old that video is, but it looks like it was done last week because Debbie looks the exact same.
Thank you.
And she has a daughter who looks exactly like her, except I think like 5 inches taller, maybe. So yeah, so Debbie, whatever her moisturizing secrets. But 10 out of 10 recommend you do this. And the reason you're going to do this is because, and you should do this, you should do these lessons before you do any sort of things on supply and demand, or any sort of issues with, or any sort of content, to help them learn through it. Because when you go through the game, the things that you're gonna learn, and we're gonna kind of talk through this, and you can just go ahead and put it in the chat. But in general, who determines the price? Who determines the price? So in the example of the game, it was computer chips. But where do prices come from? Who determines it? Supply side, demand side, where does it come from? In consumer, the demand.
I would say supply side.
Supply side?
Because the supplier has to cover his costs at the very least.
But can they charge any price they want?
Of course not.
No. So, yes,
But they have to cover their costs at least.
they do have to cover their costs, but the demander has to be able to make it worth it. So it comes from both of them. And so the market, suppliers and demanders coming together do it. And I make the analogy, or I think about it as scissors. So if we're thinking about scissors, right? Is it the top scissors or the bottom scissors that's making the cut? That seems like a silly question, right? It's the interaction of the two scissors that is cutting, or the two pieces of the scissors cutting the paper. And that's exactly what's happening in this market. So if it were buyers, what would they set their price? Well, if it was buyers setting price, they would try to set it as low as possible. But do sellers like that? No, because like Paul said, they have to cover their costs. Now, if sellers were the ones to set their prices, they would set it as high as possible, right? They would set it as high as possible, but no buyer would be willing to pay that, right? You've gone to a store and have you ever gone to a store and you're like, "Oh, that shirt is so cute." And you look at the tag, you're like, "Not for that price." Am I the only one that's done that one? So it's the interaction between both of them. And this is kind of one of those fallacies that we think about in economics, is that a lot of times people think it's the suppliers, and it really isn't. It's the interaction. The other thing is that consumers feel that that they're fighting against suppliers. But it's not true, and you'll find this in the lesson, and it works so beautifully, is that when buyers compete, what happens to prices? So has anyone ever been to an auction and the buyers are competing? What happens to prices?
Increase.
They increase.
Yeah, they increase. They go up. I remember going to an auction, and there was like a rocking chair, and it was like, I can't remember what it was. I think it was like 30 or maybe it was $50. And I was like, "Oh, I don't know." So nobody was willing to buy it at $50. And so then they, like, the auctioneer lowered the price to $10. And I was like, "I'll take it for 10." And I was like, I was willing to pay 25. And at $10, and I said, "Ooh, I'm interested." And then somebody else was interested, right? And they kept bidding it up. The rocking chair went for well over $50, but they were unwilling to buy it at that time. Right? And so you see this in the game. This happens. Now, when sellers compete, what happens to prices?
They fall.
They start dropping, right? Because sellers are like, "Oh, come to me. I'll sell it to you for this price. I'll sell it to you for, instead of $5, I'll sell it to you for $4. And this happens in the game. So it's not buyers against sellers, it's buyers against buyers and sellers against sellers, right? Buyers and sellers are shaking hands when they've made an agreement. And that's all that this comes from. This is extremely important to understand because entrepreneurs have to make pricing decisions. And entrepreneurs, they lots of times make mistakes, right? And so the goal of this lesson is to kind of give the ideas and the basics of supply and demand while then also tailoring it to pricing decisions that the entrepreneur is actually going to make. So again, these are those major economic institutions. We're going to focus on the open markets in particular. And so we're going to focus on, what is the kind of this key institution, this market system, and how does that impact that? So the law of demand, if you're familiar, as the price goes up, the quantity demanded goes down. And there's lots of simple ways and fun ways to do this. In my classroom, I auction off like a Coke or a Pepsi or a Prime or whatever it is, whatever drink it is. And I say, stand up if you, and the students have to do this, right? In our class, we honor our contracts. I ask the students, like, how many students would be willing to buy this drink for a quarter? And majority of the students stand up, right? There's obviously some people that don't because maybe they don't like the pop, they don't like the drink, whatever it is. Or they don't have a quarter. That's fine. Then I ask, what happened? How about 50 cents? 75 cents. And what do you think is happening as I'm increasing the price of the drink? What happens to the number of people standing?
It goes down.
It goes down.
It goes down.
It goes down. As the price went up, the quantity demanded goes down. And then I do go all the way fully until I get to one person standing, and then I literally make them pay me for the drink. So we do that. It's kind of a fun thing. Right? And the demand curve is downward sloping because of diminishing marginal utility. You get less and less satisfaction when you've consumed an item. So the demand shifters, and we're just going to kind of cruise through these, but tastes and preferences, income. So you've got normal and inferior goods, price of related good, complements and substitutes, number of buyers, and then expected future income and prices. And these are things that are going to either increase your demand or shift your demand curve to the right, or they're going to decrease your demand or shift your curve to the left. I would always encourage you to say left and right shifts because the left and the right works for both supply and demand. If you say shift up and down, it makes it goofy when you get to the supply. So right is an increase in supply and demand, and the left is a decrease in supply and demand. So lefts and rights, not up and down. Okay? All right. So let's practice. Left is less. Say it with me, class. Left is less. Listen, okay, so let's practice with this. So we have pizza, and pizza is one of my favorite foods in the entire world. I could eat pizza for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. It's just a way to get ingredients in my mouth. I love pizza. Love, love, love pizza. And unfortunately, my husband's like, we had pizza 3 months ago. We're fine. So we are pizza, I guess, aggressive or adjacent or something. So local pizza shop noticed a new trend. People really love a thin crust pizza. Use the graph to show how this trend might affect the demand for thin crust pizza. So what is going to happen to the demand for pizza?
It'll shift right.
It'll shift right. And what is that?
An increase in demand.
Increase in demand. And graphically, it's going to look like this. I would encourage you to do lots of practice with your students. I love practice, things like that. But in the interest of time, we're going to crank through this. All right. Law of supply. This one is going to go kind of the opposite, or not really opposite, but the same direction, but kind of opposite of the consumer. Now, I will say this is the tricky part for students, and this is the tricky part for entrepreneurs, because entrepreneurs or people in general have a lot of practice being consumers. They have nearly no practice being producers. Right? So it becomes really hard. And I do think, and this is in my, my opinion corner here, is that this is kind of why a lot of entrepreneurs can fail because they just haven't had the practice on the producer side, right? It's just not their normal thing. So I was talking about take off your consumer hat and put on your producer hat. So in the law of supply says that if price increases, quantity supplied increases. So, and then vice versa. So as the price increases, suppliers are going to be like, yeah, I'm much more willing and able to supply these sort of things. So let's just say with that pop example, with that whatnot. So let's say I had a drink and Paul, you bought it for $10. You bought that drink for $10. What do you think Debbie and Lisa are gonna do? I bet they are gonna go and they're gonna be like, I'm gonna quick while Jamie's talking, I'm gonna quick go to the store and I'm gonna buy some more pop. And then we're gonna sell it, right? They're willing to do that. They're willing to take that on. And you know, in the spirit of geographical thing, I say pop. I know that means I'm from like the Midwest area. So, but the supply curve is upward sloping, and that's largely due to the fact that as you produce more and more of a good or service, your marginal costs rise. So as you want to produce more, what example did I use? More pizzas, right? So if you want to produce more pizzas, you need more ingredients. And those ingredients are gonna start costing you more and more to produce that. And so in order for you to even attempt to produce more, you have to make the money to do it, right? So kind of an incentive, prices are incentive, and that's kind of an incentive for that. Now, there are there are supply shifters. Here is how I always tell my students to think about these. Is it going to make it more expensive or less expensive for you to produce the item? If it's going to make it more expensive, you can produce less. It's going to be a decrease in supply. If it's going to make it less expensive or cheaper, you can produce more. So in everything I do, I just try to boil it down to, is it going to be cheaper to produce or more expensive to produce? So input prices, right? This is probably, you know, your supply chain issues. So what's happening to your supply chain? Did you, you know, come into a world of mozzarella so your pizzas can get really, really inexpensive? Or is there some sort of mad cow disease, and that's, you know, destroying milk production, which is destroying cheese production, right? So input prices, supply chain is kind of where you're thinking there. Technology or productivity, government taxes and subsidies, prices of other goods and services that could be produced, the number of sellers, and the expected price of the product. Okay. So again, if you have an increase in supply, it is a rightward shift. Do you see how this is not an up or down situation? Because it looks goofy. And if you have a leftward shift, that is a decrease in the supply curve. Okay. How are we doing? Thumbs up, thumbs down, feel good, going too fast? Real thumbs up, real thumbs down. You can do virtual ones too. How about for that 3.9? Is it cheaper to produce? Oh yeah, there you go. Okay, so let's practice. A local pizza shop bought a new oven which retains heat and cooks pizza faster. How does this affect the supply of pizza? You can go ahead, shout it out, or write it in the chat.
We'll shift
Move it to the right.
right. Yeah.
Shift to the right. Why? Why, Tamara?
I suppose because the new oven would make it so that you're using less energy and less costs, and so you're able to produce more.
Yeah. Well, and it's cooking pizzas faster.
Yeah.
So if you
But
can
it
make
doesn't
it
affect
faster,
the taste.
what?
So
Okay, so
so
we
you
got to
might
keep
not
it.
be selling any more if they're crummy pizzas to begin with.
But it doesn't say anything about that, right? So we gotta keep it simple, silly.
Yep, keep it to the facts. I'm sorry.
Right? It retains the heat. It doesn't make it taste bad. It retains the heat, so it cooks things faster. This is, you know, so it's going to increase my supply of pizza. Now, in a 4-hour shift, I can produce even more. I can produce more. Things like that. Okay, so
theoretically, that would increase table turns in the restaurant and increase delivery because of lower delivery times.
there you go. Lots there, but we're gonna keep it simple, right?
Yeah, that's the hardest part for students. Just keep it simple because they always think like, you know, 1 or 2 steps ahead.
See, I'm gonna disagree with you on that. It's my teachers that are always the ones going too many steps forward.
Yeah,
My
yeah,
students
but, you know,
listen.
think of, oh, but if this and that, or if
Yeah.
it takes the taste away, So
Yes.
yeah.
Yes. I think it's my wily teachers. All right. So when we have the market equilibrium, right, this is where the supply and demand come together. I didn't do a geography thing. Is anyone from Nebraska in here? Anyone from Nebraska? Or maybe like a Husker fan by any chance? I'm just trying to click through the thing. Anyone? Well, in
Nebraska is a real
Nebraska,
place.
it is. It stereotypically it is very corn-filled, and I jokingly say like we just got internet last week, but my cows in the backyard, like if they're not moving, I don't have the power. No, I'm just kidding. But in Nebraska, so I have my PhD from Lincoln, so I'm an indirect corn husker. But you at the football games, you throw the bones, which is like their defense sign. I think it's a supply and demand graph sign. Like I just get really excited for defense because they just do supply and demand graph signs all over. But that's where we talk about our equilibrium. So it's where supply equals demand. Now you can find this multiple different ways. So you have a system, you have two equations, you can solve two equations, two unknowns, system of equations, solve for price and quantity, those sort of things. Calculus does this. Or you can just use a good old picture and find the middle point, right? That's the kind of way that I like to do it. And I do think that for the purpose of our class, like just this, the more simple, the better. And particularly let's get some economic literacy before we kind of, stress them out. But it finds our equilibrium price and quantity, and it is graphically the point where the supply and demand curves cross, right? You don't need to send. Now, this is something that's really important for consumers. Oh, I'm just seeing this. Emily, I'm a UNO prof, so I love that. So this is, I think, the issue with entrepreneurs is they spend a lot of time and maybe a lot of effort and a lot of money making pricing decisions that might be incorrect, and they can be really, really costly. So if we can help them make fewer mistakes with their pricing decisions, they can be set up for more success in their business. So let's think about this. So what if price is too high? Who likes high prices? Who likes high prices?
Suppliers.
Suppliers do, right? They want to get as much money as possible, right? And that kind of makes sense. Now, who likes low price, or who doesn't like high prices?
Demanders.
Consumers, demanders, right? So what's going to happen is that when the price is too high, there's going to be a whole bunch of suppliers that are going to increase the amount of stuff that they're going to sell because they're the stuff in the market. But the demanders are like, ooh, I don't really want to buy it. It's too expensive. And so we end up with this issue of a surplus. So how do we get rid of extra stuff if you're a business? What do you have to do?
Put it on sale.
You have to put it on sale. And that can be really costly because have you ever been to a store and they've had a sale item and it could be below, that sale price could be below what they bought, what they paid for it, right? And so they can be losing out on money. In general, when you put things on sale, there's less profit margins, right? So you want to be really careful about your pricing because if you set the price too high, you can lose out in the long run. Also, when we're thinking about opportunity costs, I often think about stores that like have boutiques or whatnot. If the stuff is just sitting on the shelf, what's the opportunity cost? It's the next item that you can sell. Like, what could you be selling there instead of those rhinestone jeans? I don't know, just making it up. All right. So, what happens if the price is too low? Who likes low prices?
Demanders.
I do.
Consumers.
I love it. Consumers love low prices, right? But producers don't because they have to cover their costs and they want to make a profit. So if the price is too low, there's a whole bunch of demanders that want to buy stuff, but not a lot of stuff for the that's being supplied out there. So we have this issue of a shortage. So how do we decide who gets the product? How do we decide who gets the product? This becomes an allocation issue. right? And if you've taught econ, you know, you've got allocation, like, so is it first, in general, it's first come, first serve, right? But it could be need based, it could be a fight, right? Has anyone seen, they don't happen as much anymore, but I always think about those Black Friday sales where they're like, people are getting vicious for things that they don't have, that they were just thankful for what they had the day before, right? It's a very confusing 48 hours. Thanking for everything we have, but then we're going to fight somebody for the TV that we don't have. But they can become problematic when the price is too low. And consumers, or excuse me, and entrepreneurs don't want to set their prices too low either, because what happens if it's too low of a price and it sells out? Well, they kind of have missed opportunity of maybe they could have charged a little bit more for it, right? So you kind of want to have I talk about Goldilocks and the Three Bears as like my entrepreneurship or as my equilibrium, right? When you go to Goldilocks, are people familiar with that story? Right? You have this little girl who breaks and enters into these, you know, just these peaceful citizens' house. I know that people think that Goldilocks is the innocent one, but she literally broke and entered and then tried to squat at their residence. And then she stole their food, slept in their house, right? All these things. But anyways, Goldilocks goes there and, you know, she tries Papa's porridge and it's too hot. And Mama's porridge is too cold because she's, you know, dealing with all the kids and all the things that moms do. But Baby Bear's porridge is just right. And that's what I think about with economics and with equilibrium. Price isn't too high, it's not too low, it's just right. It's the baby bear. It's where we want to be. And this is important for entrepreneurs because they have to understand how markets work. And a lot of times, I think this is where people will struggle because they've not had the opportunity to practice making these pricing decisions. Right? You can lose out if it's too low, but you can lose out on profits if the item is too high, right? Low revenue. There's also things that affect the market, which affect their pricing decisions. We've been talking about the market as kind of static, but the market is it's volatile, it's dynamic, it's ever changing. There's tons of information, right? And so students need to understand how this kind of works out for them. And so you have to pay attention because this is going to change your business decisions. Okay. So this is where the bulk of the lesson goes. So in general, you would have spent a lot of time doing supply and demand, but here's what we're going to do. So I'm going to put you into breakout rooms and you're given a case study. You're given a case study and you're going to have to work through it with your groups. You can either go to that tiny URL or I'm going to put in the chat. I'm going to put the case study. It's just a Google Doc. It's just the Google Doc for you to look at. You're using your computer. You'll probably have about 15 minutes. We'll try to do that. And we're going to kind of talk through it. So what you are, the case study, and I'm going to show the case study so we can go through it just a brief bit. This is one of the case studies in the lesson. So you're going to be a gourmet cookie business and you've got some information about, you know, a business and how much each batch of cookies costs, how long it takes, right, for Imani. But then what you need to do is you're going to have to search some bakeries. And I understand that we are all very largely geographic range. Ideally, you're thinking about, you know, your students are in a community. So what's going on in the community? What's going on here? You all take it how you will, right? If you want to look up big ones, small ones, you know, Crumble, it's fine. But just know that like you can kind of change that to be you're looking at a community in the downtown area or whatnot.
Okay.
And then you're going to look at flour costs and do some research and looking at different suppliers. And you can do the research on that of how much are these different, how much is flour costing you? Okay. And then looking at specialty flour. And then you're going to have to answer some questions about the market and to determine like, how do you even set a price of your cookie? Right? So you have all this information. You don't have complete information, so it's meant to be simple, but it's meant to give you the start of trying to figure this stuff out. So I'm going to put you in breakout rooms. Are there any questions before I do this? Any questions? I'm going to kind of put you into small breakout rooms just so that you have a lot of time to talk. So there's going to be 10, so there should be 4 to 5 people. Any questions before I send you in there? Does the cookie? No, you were sharing their secrets. The Girl Scouts are coming to get me. They're great little entrepreneurs. All right, so I'm going to send you to your rooms, give you some time, and we'll come back and discuss this. So, yes, absolutely, you did not have enough time. But hopefully you got a gist of what's happening. So, if anyone wants to kind of raise their hand, what bakeries did you look at? Simona?
Well, to be honest, everybody was from a different state, but we came to the agreement that make it local will be relevant. And honestly, this is what I will do in my class. I will have students use AI, but put an economic prompt, something local. So they have to know their prompts to come up with the name. Because it's not just using the AI, but the way they know how to put a prompt, right? And they can compete which one has the best name.
So
But
this isn't coming up with a name. This is looking at the bakeries and finding out how much they're charging for cookies.
oh, we look at that too. We analyze that too. Sorry, we just got carried over.
So this
right?
isn't about the name. This is looking at pricing decisions. So
Yeah,
did anyone?
Uh-huh.
So
Go
did
ahead, go ahead.
anyone? What bakery did you look up, and what prices did you see for your cookies? So Melissa, you said Eileen's. What did you find at Eileen's? Like, what was the price per cookie for Eileen's, Melissa?
So Eileen's, every cookie that they sell, you could buy them by a dozen. I believe it was $8.25 a dozen. So it worked out to just under 69 cents each. And if you aren't familiar, they're about 3 inches across. And it doesn't matter if it's chocolate chip, oatmeal, frosted sugar, they're all that same size.
Yeah. But crumble cookies are different, right? Yeah. So Timothy put crumble was $4.49 for a single 3-inch cookie. Has anyone been to Costco in the last couple months? I don't know about your Costco, but mine has delicious chocolate chip cookies for like $2.59. And you can get them warm and they're delicious.
Yeah, they sell a big
Oh,
a
from
big
the
tin.
cafe you're talking about, Costco
Yeah.
cafe? Okay, yep. Mm-hmm.
And
No,
I'm a big Costco fan. You can just tell them and then they'll just put it right in your receipt while you're buying all your goodies. Insomnia cookies are $3.78 or $3.75, excuse me. So these cookies are there's differences, right? Eric, what did you wanna add to this?
Oh, I was just gonna chime in with our prices. I was looking at specifically Half Moon cookies, just because selfishly I really love those.
Is that a chain?
No, it's a type of cookie. I think it might be
Oh.
like kind of a regional thing.
Oh, okay.
I don't know, but the prices were pretty consistent looking across different bakeries. We saw like, I don't know, I looked up a bunch, but it was like between $2.65 on the low end and $3 on the high end. So at least in like upstate New York, there was a pretty consistency in the prices.
Yeah. So we're not going to be able to go through this entire document. But do you think that it's important as an entrepreneur for you to look at competitors? Should you be looking at what competitors are charging? Should you be looking at the products that they're offering? Should you look at the type of products, right? Are they doing gluten-free? Are they doing almond flour? Are they doing those sort of things? But these are things that I'm not certain, and maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm not sure that students are doing always a very good job of looking at that, right? Then on top of that, you need to figure out your costs of your item. So if you've ever watched Shark Tank, one of my favorite things that they do, and they don't say it explicitly, but they say how many items do you need to buy to get to your item to be like 10 cents per piece, right? And really what they're trying to do is they're trying to figure out what quantity to get to your minimum average total cost curve, right? That's what they're essentially asking. But when we're thinking about this, if you're a small bakery, can you buy 100 pounds of flour? Maybe, maybe not, right? Like, so can you buy, even if you bought a massive amount of flour, what's your opportunity cost? Well, one, you might not have that much cash, right? More flour, it's going to cost you more. Even if it's that price per ounce or price per pound is cheaper, you have space issues. Can you store 100 pounds of flour? Can you store these bags of flour? Can you handle these chocolate chips, right? Yeah, Simone, great one. You may not use it all. It could go bad. So you have to think through these sort of things. You want to have the lowest price per cost, cost per item, but you have to also think about where you're at in your production. So I'm assuming you did well, so Theodore, flour does spoil. It just depends on the type of flour. So the all-purpose flour that we have is very shelf stable, but there are whole flours that do spoil. But that'd be your specialty flour, right? Or if you have the almond flour, those sort of things. And you have to store it correctly. In Nebraska, it gets quite humid in the summer. So then looking at the questions, what does the demand look like? To me, cookies seem like the 2000s, like the 2010 cupcakes, right? Do you all remember that phenomenon when there's all those cupcake bakeries? Trying to find those sort of things. Do you all think that the demand for cookies is increasing or decreasing? What do you all think about?
I think Timothy, sorry.
Timothy, what do you think? You're on mute.
Sorry, I did a quick search online. I found in the Business Magazine New Hampshire, it's the demand is increasing. We're the 22nd most highest ranked cookie loving state, and they're projecting that we'll see a doubling of our demand for cookies in the next 10 years.
Yeah.
Apparently we're currently in a shortage of cookies.
Oh, what a problem. That sounds like are you okay? Do we need to send you cookies?
Please,
Right?
send.
So it depends, and some people have said it depends in the areas, right? It depends on what you're doing. Steven says it's a silly trend. It probably is, but it's going on right now. Yeah, those sort of things. What sort of strategy would you want to make your cookie different? So you've got to think about those sort of things, because if you're just selling chocolate chip cookies, it doesn't matter, right? You've got to figure out where your niche is. And then you got to think about what price should you charge. So we're not going to go through all this, but essentially, you need to make sure that you are covering your costs and your opportunity costs. You need to be able to sell the cookies for more than the cost of the cookies going to cost you, right? Including, because we're in economics, including your opportunity costs. So what could you be doing if you weren't baking cookies? Start selling online. You now have to accommodate with packaging, right? Prices are going to start rising. If a nearby bakery starts selling cookies for $3 each, what should you do? Well, you might have to figure out how can you lower your cost. Or is your cookie so different, so unique, you're fine. And then obviously this is a niche or they're very simplistic thing. What other information would you like to know about your pricing decision, right? I think we could come up with dozens of things. But the whole idea of this is to put some sort of realistic way to do research and give students practice to think through how do you actually price your cookies. Can the students price their cookies at $10 a piece? I mean, they can. Do you think that's going to work out in their market? Probably not, right? Unless it's super justifiable, which, maybe it's not. So hopefully this is kind of like a reality check of how do you do research and where do you start looking at those sort of things?
There's a video, another Essential Scholar video on Joseph Schumpeter on what is entrepreneurship. Excuse me. I'm going to go ahead and skip this video for the sake of time. But basically, we've talked enough about what an entrepreneur is, but there's somebody that organizes and operates a business. They take on the financial risk, and they also reap the rewards if it succeeds. So that it's important that they accept the ultimate losses or rewards. Now, what is unique about Joseph Schumpeter is that he said entrepreneurs can do any or all of the things on this list. So they can develop new and improved products, I would say new or improved products. They can open new markets. So take a product and go into a market where it hasn't been sold before. They can develop more efficient methods of production, that is making things using fewer resources, or at a lower cost by introducing new technology or a new process. They can find new and improved sources of supply. Entrepreneurs can rearrange industries, like perhaps establish a monopoly or break up a monopoly. So think about businesses that have, like Sears was a giant one time and nobody could bring Sears down, right? And then Walmart came along, and then who came along to eat Walmart's lunch? Amazon. Think about, these are businesses that disrupted and kind of challenged monopoly power. And then my favorite is F. They can copy others who do one or some of something else on the list. So you don't even have to be an entrepreneur. You don't have to be the first person who ever came up with the idea or did one of these things. You can copy somebody else that did one of these things. So Timothy is asking, where can you find the videos that are in these slides? So you're going to get this deck of slides, and the videos are linked to those slides. You can also just Google Essential Scholar videos. It should take you to the Fraser Institute's website. They have an Essential Scholar series, little booklets that are each of these, this creative destruction lesson and the one we did before have references to the Essential Scholar books where the students read little passages. And there's some extension activities as well. All right, so we're going to do an activity called Build a Better Widget. And if you're doing this in person, you would go to your supply closet. It's going to look a little different every semester or every class when you run the project, because you're going to have different resources available at your disposal. And so I get a bunch of resources and I put them together in a brown paper bag so that every team gets the same bag of resources. And I like to include fun things. I hit up the dollar store. I raid my pantry. I put things like coffee filters in there, plastic utensils. I usually put a paper plate, a plastic bag, maybe some Ziploc baggies, napkins. Those are the kind of things I grab from my pantry. I go to my kids' craft little cabinet, and I usually put some beads or feathers or pipe cleaners, those kind of things in. Whatever you can get from your school, sticky notes, index cards, ribbon, I'm trying to think some of the paper clips, those kind of things that you could throw in the bag. So everybody has a bag. There's a bunch of ideas here on this slide. And then I do make some community resources available. I don't put them in every bag, but just up on the front table, I usually have glue, tape, scissors, some markers, staples, things like that everybody could use. And their job is to create, using the resources in their bag, to create something that people would want or need. And then they would write, there's usually an index card in the bag. They would write the name of their product on the index card. I usually put plastic cups, try to think of some other things that give, some structure to the product. Anyway, okay. So in our activity, we're going to do this virtually by sending you into a breakout room. And let me give you the link to the team slides. You're going to collaborate again on team slides that will coordinate with your breakout room number. So go ahead and open those team slides. They look like this. And instead of a bag of resources, you get a bunch of random shapes all over the bottom of your slide, okay? And you can do with these shapes whatever you need to. You can make them bigger, smaller, change the color, move them around, but you're going to use these shapes to create something that people would want or need. And you're going to give it a name by putting the name up in the title of the slide, okay? And you're not going to have very much time to do this. So you got to work quick, talk it out as a group, and start creating, okay? Any questions before I send you into your breakout rooms? Okay, go meet your new group, and you get 5 minutes for this first round. On your marks, get set, go. Okay, welcome back, everybody. Can you still see my screen? Okay, this is team one's invention. So somebody from team one, give us your 15-second pitch, the name and what it is.
It's a automatic cleaning robot.
Automatic cleaning robot, and the name is Receptacle of Receptacles.
Yeah, it's just gonna pick up and clean everything, so.
All right. How about team number 2, 15 seconds, abstract art kit. The pilot, tell us about this.
Well, we're just going to give everybody wine or have people pay for wine, and we're just going to pile the stuff up on the table. It's like reverse Jenga.
Okay. And how about team 3? Tell us about your invention. Somebody jump in there.
All right, so we made easy modular furniture.
Okay.
You can see we tried to label it.
All right, I like it. And team 4, what do you have? Candace, Chris, Kurt, David, Emily.
A breeze dome, a dome you can set up at the beach in case it rains.
Okay, protects you from a breeze or rain.
Yep.
Okay, and then team 5, tell us about your invention.
Yeah, we had a bird bistro, like a bird feeder, adjustable based on the bird migration with landing area marks. And for different species, for adjustable size of birds, right? And they are refillable.
Okay. And team 6, what do you have? What did you invent?
What?
What do you think, team 6? This is Juby, Frizia, Mike, Steven, Tanver.
So it's basically a shield to protect the house.
Okay. And SHIELD is an acronym for Safe Home Intrusion and Elopement Limiting Defense.
Yeah, so it's meant to protect from the top to the bottom, the house, and that way structural damage doesn't happen or anything like that.
Okay. And team 7, what do we have here?
I'll start. It was just to try to help senior citizens that are being, people are committing fraud. So we're trying to help get this, I guess, help them, like a 1-800 number, so that, and this is supposed to be some kind of house, but we're working on that.
Okay.
Of the senior citizen.
All right. So do they make a phone call? Is it like a service that's provided?
Yes, if they could make a phone call, yes, that would be awesome.
Okay.
Some kind of intervention is the best we could do.
Okay. And team 8, what do you have?
So we have No More Tears dog toy, or No More Tears, depending on how you want to look at it. So it is a indestructible squeaky toy. The X's is where it Velcros, pulls apart. The circle is where you put a little dog treat in there so that it can like dig out. And the cloud that you see in the middle is the squeaky toy, and the little lightning bolt inside is the squeaky.
Okay. And did we have it? I don't think we had a team 9. Somebody was just working on their own here. Okay. We're going to stick with our teams 1 through 8. I'm going to delete this slide just because we have to keep it to our 8 teams. And let me jump back over here to our slides. You shared your inventions. Now for round 2, you're going to go back in and rotate to the next invention. And your job is to modify or improve the product. What can you do to make it better? You can adjust the name if you need to, however you want to make modifications or improvements. and then you're going to share how you improve that product. Okay, so everybody in team 1 is going to work on slide 2. Team 2 will work on slide 3. Team 3 will work on slide 4, and so on. Team 8 will jump up and work on slide 1. Okay. All right, sending you back to your breakout rooms. Move to the next slide and improve it. Okay, welcome back, everybody. In the classroom, the students would physically move to the next invention. So the inventions would stay on the tables where they were created with all the resources in case, so the resources and the inventions stay together. And then the students move and they can use any of the other resources that are still there, plus the invention, to improve and modify that product. And so let's go ahead and start with, this is team 4, but this is team 3 that worked on team 4. So tell us how you improved the product. Somebody jump in. Lena, Emily, Lisa, Philip.
We added some color to the entire product and just made it more symmetrical on both ends, as well as put some background just so it is better advertised for the right target audience. And we also added the word beach because the original team described this being as a product to use at the beach. So we just added that word in case someone wants to look it up on Amazon. The keyword would help reach more potential customers.
Okay. And team 4, how did you improve this product? What modifications did you make? Come on, team 4, Candace, Chris, Kurt, David, Emily.
So I changed the name because you want to listen to the birds. So instead of just the birds eating, it's a cafe for chirps. So
all right.
Mm-hmm. I added a little trough underneath the purple house so that you could lay out some food. Also a little perch there. There's that line that comes out, and I extended the heart to make a bigger hole there and straightened the roof.
Okay.
So,
and team 5, tell us how you improved this product.
Oh, we got really mean here. We had like a trap for people. They want to come and, and our shield is more like a dome. And whatever touches the dome is going to get stricken by lightning and it's going to fall into a trap. We have, in case they invade us in, we have like a safe room, like in a movie, with a storage for food and self-sustained generator and water.
Okay.
A lot of stuff. And we changed the name, the Haven Stronghold. And
but
we also have
that SHIELD acronym.
Yes, with other possible Haven strongholds.
Okay. And team 6, tell us what you did here. How did you modify this product?
Well, that kind of shifted a little bit.
Yeah. I
on
thought I saw the word
cold
or cold on there.
Yeah, we had cold because it was like, call old,
call old. Got it.
Because it is for elderly people, but it's like we change it for guard so it doesn't seem as offensive.
Okay.
And this part in the where the heart is, it's it's like kind of like a guard, a shield to protect the your investment, your heart.
Okay, very nice. And team 7, what did you do here?
So we made a modification to the title to evoke an emotion. So it's not just a toy, it's joy. We made it 10% bigger because, we live in America and bigger's better. We also put the heart, which I think was the squeaky part of the toy. We put it inside the toy so the dog can be more stimulated with it inside the toy. And we added a bunch of other places where the dog can grab on to the toy and play tug of war with you.
All right. Okay. And team 8, what did you do here? Tell us about your improvements to the product.
So we changed the robot to the unwanted guest remover. So you no longer have to get rid of your guest. The robot will do it for you. So you can see that is now kicking you out the exit, and whomever it might be solicitor, might be your mother-in-law. It might be a lot of different other options. The neighborhood kid, your eldest child that still won't leave, all these different things.
Very relatable. And team one, tell us what you did here.
Hey, hi everyone. This is team two actually, and we modified team three's idea. We love their idea, so we didn't change much. Actually, it was the previous one. Yeah, it was.
Yeah, I feel like these two slides.
Yep, that's the one we cleared up the wire.
Okay.
It's our idea.
Okay.
During the day, we're gonna have a staging studio featuring independent artists' creative works. And at night, when we close this furniture shop, it's going to be a private venue featuring wine tasting and 5-course tasting menus, absolutely charging a high-end price on there. We are also more than happy to serve as your private venue.
Okay, and you were team two?
We were team two. We modified team three's idea.
Got it. I think the slides got flipped around by somebody. Okay. And how about this slide right here? Who's our last team? Team three? Or was this team one? Who worked on this one?
We were team one, and now we know what happened to our beverage insert. Yeah. And we modified our abstract art kit, and we thought it needed just a little bit of direction. And so we wanted to give people an idea of what to do with the shapes and to lead them in the direction of creating their own abstract art. So we changed the title a little bit and gave them their own gold frame and a little bit of an exemplar. Unleash your chaos, create your own masterpiece, and use the images to create their own abstract art.
Great. Okay, you guys did a great job. I would normally in the classroom, or if you have more time, whether you're doing it virtually or in a live classroom, give them at least one more round where they rotate to the next invention and do one more round of improvements or modifications. And I will tell you from experience, when we've done this virtually, people always bring in outside resources like a picture of the wine, or, as soon as one group starts coloring things, other groups start doing it. In the classroom, you'll see the same kind of thing. Like a student will all of a sudden be missing a shoe because they've attached all this art crafty stuff to their shoe for whatever their invention is. And I would say, don't try to stop that kind of thing. It's just them being creative and thinking out of the box. And if they discover new supply resources or something, it fits into this entrepreneurial spirit. They can't break the game. So after they've had at least a couple of rounds, to the essential ideas. There's a video in here specifically about this process of creative destruction. And I'm going to again skip the video for the sake of time, but I encourage you to go back and watch it if you have a chance. Welcome to the essential idea. Because creative destruction is an evolutionary process. It's organic. It's the process by which new products or processes or markets destroy old ones, allowing economies to progress and evolve. So it's a paradox. You hear that in that term, creative and destruction at the same time. Creative destruction. People come up with new ideas that replace old ideas. What are some examples, from this activity, of ways that you came up with a new idea and it replaced an old idea? Like some part of that is now obsolete. Did anybody's modifications make something on the previous product, it replaced it or made it better? Elena, do you have an example, or did you have another question or comment?
I had another question. Thank you,
Go
Debbie.
ahead.
Is when you do it in the classroom, are they limited to just the items that we provide for them in that in their bin or in their bag? Or because here it wasn't clear. I know we talked about this in our group, and we duplicated shapes. So to me, that was an example of adding more to it. In the classroom, are they limited to just what's in the bag? Is that right?
No, I would just say you have these resources, create an invention. but don't stop them if they come up with other resources or if they bring in something else. Like the example of the shoe I was giving, students will find ways to bring in other things, or they'll turn their desk into something with this stuff, and it's okay. Like just like you guys did. So I would say, tell them these are the resources you have to make an invention, but don't stop them when they get creative and bring other things in.
Thank you.
Yeah. So let me give you a better question to answer. Who would be worse off because of a change that you made? So think about your invention and a way that you changed it. Can you think of somebody that would be worse off because of that change? I know it's a little abstract because we're talking about products, that are that we just came up with. I'm going to scroll back in the chat because I saw somebody had put a good activity in here, or a good example. Oh, when somebody said Zoom eliminated Skype, who's not going to like the creation of Zoom? Who would be worse off because of that?
People who love Skype.
People who love Skype, who liked using it, people who work for Skype, the coders and developers, behind Skype. And so when Zoom came along and said, we can do it better, and then everybody else started coming along and saying, we'll do it too, Skype kind of fell by the wayside, right? And Microsoft came up with something else, Teams, is their new product. If you thought that your job was going to become obsolete because a new, better product or process came along, what might you do to stop it? Teachers worry about this, I think. Technology allows us to deliver
Hopefully we come
education.
out with better product.
Yeah.
Yeah. What might we do as teachers if we're threatened that our jobs are going to be, eliminated, that they're going to need fewer teachers because with technology, we could serve more teachers at a higher secondary level, let's say. What might
Go with
we
the flow.
I might point out all the negatives of that new disrupting.
Yes, like highlight why you would want me. What else might you try to do? Put them in the chat or just call them out.
They do things like this.
Specialize. Might want to specialize.
Specialize, good.
Yes, like cater to something or someone or someone's.
Okay.
Some very, very specific needs. You might want to innovate.
Okay.
So much that you are needed. You might want to use both, like AI in yourself, and just go with the flow and make yourself more relevant and the technology more relevant.
Yeah, Jeff said the same thing. He said, embrace the new technology. Could you imagine people protesting and wanting and maybe lobbying congressmen to like, let's say that we require that the maximum number of students per teacher is 30. Could you see people lobbying for that to protect our jobs? Yeah. When if you're the one that's going to be faced, but you're the one that's going to become obsolete, or your job might be replaced, you can definitely understand why people would want to fight against that. But what would be the cost of stopping or impeding that process of creative destruction?
Stagnation and regress,
It would be stagnation, yeah. Even regression. It would stop economic growth and progress. It's painful. Some people do lose their job. We don't have people that make typewriters or fix typewriters anymore, but we're better off as a society because of that. There's a little mini activity in this lesson that you can have students do as homework. You have them bring in something that has become obsolete, something from their house that has become obsolete. And when we have more time in a teacher workshop, I usually have teachers go around their house and find something. And you'd be surprised how many things we have that are obsolete. Like nobody uses iPods anymore, right? Why use an iPod when you can have access to, iPods could only store so many songs. And today you can have unlimited access to songs through Spotify or a subscription service on your cell phone, right? And so, and then you ask, how is your life better off because that item is now obsolete? We still have some DVDs around the house, but we never use them because it takes so long to find them. And then you've got the quality issue. And it's much easier just to go do a quick search and see who's streaming it. And if we might be willing to pay $2.99 to watch it, right? But it's convenient. So this process of creative destruction is an essential fact about capitalism. It is how economies evolve and progress through time. Old goods and processes give way to new, creating a constant churning in the economy. Societies that allow creative destruction to unfold experience greater economic growth and development than those that don't. Entrepreneurs are the driving force behind this creative destructive process. They are constantly looking for ways to improve, come up with something new, make it better, and that's what drives progress and growth in an economy. Okay, I'll turn it over to Jamie to give you a little overview of the curriculum, and then we'll wrap things up today.
So, this is like a brief look. Oh, I did not want it to come up like that. I'm just going to click through it really quick. Sorry. Okay, so this is an incomplete curriculum, but it's in the process, and this is where the lessons that we have so far that will be kind of added to throughout this. But essentially kind of creating the idea of almost like a semester-long course that's designed for entrepreneurship that has very heavy economic concepts. There are activities that are going to be kind of your traditional FTE activities where there are solidly activities, right? Such as the destination startup, in the chips, the creative destruction you just did, those sort of things. And then there's going to be activities that are going to be more lecture forward, but are still interactive, engaging content. And so these lessons are coming this summer and fall 2025. You will get access to a Google folder, which will have lessons on it. And I'll be continually, as I'm putting these lessons in their final stages, I'll be continually updating that. So you all have a sneak peek at the lessons, and then everyone will kind of have to wait until they go up on the website. So they're going to go on the website eventually. And I'm sure FTE will roll out marketing for that and sharing that with their listserv and everything like that. But so this is kind of the idea is that you're going to walk through the concepts that we did today, like what is entrepreneurship, and then pricing decisions. They're going to make that business plan. They're going to have to understand how market structures affect entrepreneurship, and looking at some marketing activity, then resources and hiring decisions. And Debbie has a spectacular technology and AI activity, which you'll see in Chicago if you come. And then kind of a case study with a school store looking at profit and looking at, actually, it's not going to be a school store anymore. I've changed the business, but it's meant to give a look at profit and opportunity costs and how you're actually calculating these sort of things. So this is kind of the curriculum that is going on. And more. So there's more lessons that will be added. And then I did want to put in another plug for joining Debbie and I in Chicago. It will be spectacular. $600 stipend plus hotel accommodations. Many of your meals are covered, and you are right downtown. So with that, I'm open to questions, and Lisa will put in some last minute information for you all.
Yeah, Jamie, if you will stop sharing, I can share what I've got. Thank you all for being here. It was a fantastic session with Jamie and Debbie. This QR code is the link to the Google Docs with all the slides and resources that Debbie and Jamie were mentioning. We will also send this out in an email to everyone, so you don't have to get it right this second. And as Jamie mentioned, this will be updated as we move through the next several weeks and months. This is our list of summer programs, and I don't know why that top bar is appearing there. But you will see all our summer programs listed here, including the entrepreneurship program in Chicago. I will say that one is filling up very quickly. So if you think you're interested, please go to our website. The QR code is there in the corner, and sign up. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. The EFT programs on the left, those provide $1,000 stipend, and they are at the campuses listed. And we have our other curriculum units coming up as well this summer. So please take a look at that, and we hope to see you.